Okay then, so after yesterday's class, as I told, we'll start with equilibrium of rigid bodies. So here I go. So rigid bodies, we'll start directly with, now just a sec, yes. So this module will contain equilibrium of rigid body, that is equivalent force systems. Given a set of forces all around, how to express those forces as a single force sometimes, okay, that if it is possible, or it can be a combination of force and a moment, which is also known as wrench. What is wrench? We'll discuss that. Okay, equilibrium of rigid body in 3 dimensions. Given a set of forces and wrench, how a body can be in 3 dimension stable in equilibrium, that we'll study. And using those principles of equilibrium, we'll try to solve some numerical, some given problem, some unknown forces, unknown wrench. Okay, so those things we'll try to figure out what it is based on these principles. Okay, so number of lectures that is required to cover all these is almost 4. Okay, so I'll take almost 4 lectures, and one, as you know, it is tutorial, but as such I have told you we'll be discussing numericals as well as theory together. Okay, so it will go in almost 5 classes for all these. Okay, so fundamentals of engineering mechanics, let us start with some small definitions which are to be known before we actually proceed. First is what is mechanics? Mechanics is a study of rigid bodies in the state of rest. It can be, body can be in rest, or it is in motion by action of set of forces or a force. Okay, so a body can be in motion or in rest, all are a study of any of these is mechanics. Okay, so what is a rigid body here? If you say rigid body, anyone, what is rigid body? Very good, very good. I could get it. I could get it. Very good. Okay, fine. So mute everyone. So, so yes. Given body, yes, distance between 2 points on that body, as you know, should not change. Okay, that means body, if it is like this, you have 2 points. Distance between those 2 points, if you apply with external forces all around, okay, the distance between those 2 points should not change. Any two random points on that body, okay, should not change. So that may be called as a rigid body. Got it? So that is quite trivial, easy to understand. Okay, next comes is this whole of this course will deal with mechanics of rigid body. That means we are not going to use any body which is not rigid, that is, if it is a deformable body, a body which can be stretched, a plastic body sort of thing. Okay, so we are not going to deal with any body which is of that kind. Okay, those are covered in advanced courses using FEM, and those courses that you have later on in your syllabus, mostly in mechanical engineering. Okay, and then you also have fluids. Okay, so mechanics of fluid mechanics, that is also not there in our domain. Okay, so we'll use this type of body for rest of the course. Got it? So as I have said, this picture clearly states what I want to say. We are going to cover mechanics of a body which is rigid in type. Okay, so you can see there are moments which are applied, there are forces which are there. Okay, and altogether the distance between any two point P and O is not changing, so it is a rigid body. It is defined by particles, set of particles. Okay, distance between any two particles should not change as well, and its mass also. Okay, whole of this bunch, this whole body, it has its own mass, and that also is a part of any body. So this is what I consider when I say if it is a body. Okay, statics is when you have whole lot of forces which are acting from outside and maybe some forces which may be inside also. Okay, then overall this body is in equilibrium, then that type of study is called statics. That mechanics is statics. Okay, we do study of forces which are in equilibrium. Okay, so that is what is statics. And then there is something which is known as dynamics also, when these forces or set of moments are causing this body to move. Okay, move in a particular direction of resultant force or in a direction of moment. Okay, so that type of body study is known as dynamics. Obviously mass is associated with this, and body in this case, because it is due to unbalanced force, it is not in a uniform velocity, mostly it is in uniform acceleration or changing acceleration or some sort, definitely not in static position in a single place or in a uniform velocity. So that is what is dynamics. Okay, so fundamentals, some basic quantities. You all know you have length. Length is given by position of a point in space. It is used to define size also, and there are different approaches to measure them. Few of them are Cartesian, spherical and cylindrical. Cartesian is what we are using since long time. You have x-axis, you have y-axis, you have z-axis, and mostly they are orthogonal to each other, you know. Okay, so all the three axes are orthogonal to each other. Okay, that is what is a rectangular Cartesian coordinate, and you have x-axis, you have y, you have z. So any point is given by x, y and z, and distance between 2 points can be x1, y1, z1 and x2, y2, z2. Distance between those two could be its length. Okay, that is the distance between those 2 points. So if it is a cube, it can be those combination of length that is forming that cube. So that is what is Cartesian approach. What is spherical? Anyone? Cartesian is well known, I have just said. So what is spherical? Just yes. Let me see who should answer. Yes. I know you know that, but still I'll cover it once again. Yes. So r, theta, and psi. It is basically distance from a point. This is r. It measures an angle theta, and there is one more angle that goes other side of it. Okay, so it can be projected right there, so that angle is also there, and that is definitely in a different plane. It is not from here, definitely. Okay, it is not from here. Let us draw it once again. If this is there, this is there. Okay, so you have this angle as theta, this is psi. Got it? So it has first turned by this much angle from this. Okay, that is in one plane, and orthogonal plane, there is one more plane which is perpendicular to the base plane, and this r makes an angle theta with that plane. Okay, so there are two angles and one distance. So this point can now be expressed as combination of r, theta and psi. Why it is spherical? Any distance which is at a r distance, whole lot of points, all the points will create a dome, a hemispherical dome. If it is on a plane, so top of the plane you will see a hemispherical dome. So all the points will be like that. So if you take it all around, it is something like sphere of radius r. It defines all the points which are lying on that sphere. So that is what is spherical coordinate system. Okay, and then you also have a cylindrical coordinate system. What is cylindrical coordinate? To do that length, cylindrical coordinate, it is similar to a spherical one. This time your workspace, workspace is something like a cylinder. Your distance of any point from an axis, that is given by r. Okay, this axis forms an angle. If you take that, this is your theta. Okay, that is your theta. R is the distance. Okay, and then this is your z, r, phi and z. Oh sorry, this is phi and z. Z is the height. So you have, this point can go anywhere along this. Okay, that is given by z, anywhere along radii, that is given by r, and all around. So it is given by phi. Okay, so again it is 3. So anyway, so these are the 3 major approaches to measure any distance. Okay, so now let me recapitulate all these, cover the essence of all this. Why only 3 parameters is required to define any point? Why only 3? Why not 4? Why not 2 is enough? Yes, yes, yes. So any point, any yes, very good. So any point in space has got 3 coordinates, that is in position, and 3 in rotation also is there. So if you are talking just about position, it has 3 degrees of freedom. Okay, so it needs at least 3 parameters to define that. So that is the reason. So quite clear. I know it is very clear to you all. So it defines many other geometrical parameters. Okay, apart from just saying the length or a size, it can tell very many other geometrical properties. To name a few, can anyone tell? Length can define size, area, volume. Very good. Those are geometrical properties, right? So unit of that we'll consider as meter. Dimension L, that is we use it, somebody can use something else. So capital L. Time, measure succession of events given by seconds, denoted by t if it is in dimensional parameter. Okay, mass measures the quantity of matter in the body measured in kilograms in SI system. M as dimensional unit. Derived units which depend on mass are moment of inertia, density, right? So these are a few. There can be many other which are derived parameters. So what is a particle? A particle, a body with a mass but having negligible dimension. Got it? Negligible dimension. It is used to simplify modeling and analysis of a system. So that is what we will be following as well. We'll try to simplify our system in points. We'll try to make them points if at all it is possible, and we'll try to see if that point is making a trajectory in space, lying somewhere in space. We'll try to relate them through a topology, and maybe we'll define the entire set of relations between those topologies. Okay, so that way we'll try to define the system and their relation also, and that is what is mechanics is all about. We'll try to further deduce some relations which are deduced relation, that is due to the action of external forces um, and the moments, or a combination of forces. And sometimes the forces do exist, we want to know how much is the force which are internal force that is generated out of those forces. Okay, that all those will be dealing in engineering mechanics. So this is just the example. It is given as our solar system maybe, which is here. Okay, so that also it can be expressed in similar way. Okay, now going to derived quantity. You know, force that tend to move a body in its direction. It imparts change in velocity also. If at all it is moving with a constant velocity, you apply a force, it is no more a velocity, it becomes an acceleration, okay, in the direction of force. Okay, so that is again can be known as force. A body which is moving, it can again change in velocity, can be velocity which becomes equal to 0. That means a moving body can come to rest by an application of external force. That also is a force. Okay, characteristics, it has its own vector. Okay, it is a vector quantity with a magnitude and direction both. Okay, you all know that already, but quickly we'll recapitulate everything. Okay, SI unit is Newton, kilogram meter per second square. To be more specific, dimensional parameter is mass, length, time to the power minus 2, mlt minus 2. It is quite trivial, easy to understand. Instances are, there are many instances of these type of forces. The forces that we see are interaction forces, it can be gravitational forces, it can be magnetomotive forces, electromagnetic forces, buoyant forces, okay, and many more. Okay, so these are a few examples. So types, there are various types of forces. Can be a concentrated force or it can be a distributed force. If at all it is, let us say if it is a gravitational force, it never acts just at the center of mass of that body, it acts on each and every point on the body. Okay, so in that case it is a distributed force. Okay, if you are pulling something with a rope, it can be considered as simplified as a concentrated force. Okay, so it can be a center of force that we are more focused on, okay, now, so that it can, we can simplify the things and solve things in our view. Okay, so that is different types of force. Okay, the weight refers to gravitational force. Gravitational force explicitly has a different term which is known as weight. It changes with location, whether you move from surface of our land to higher up in the altitude, definitely there will be some change in gravitational force. You go to another planet, forces will be different, gravitational force will be different, because it is related to gravitational force, obviously it will be different. So again, what this figure below shows is point of application of force it is showing, okay, and direction also. So all the ropes that you see in this bridge is applied at different point on the bridge, okay, and they all have different inclination, that means different direction. So that is what it is, just a pictorial representation of force which shows both point of application, direction. Obviously they may have different magnitudes also. Okay, so each everything of a force is very important to deal with any problem. So you have to specify them very clearly. Now coming to laws of motion. Again, these things are very trivial. I'll quickly start and finish. Okay, so first law, a particle will continue to remain in the state of rest or in uniform motion unless and until acted upon by an external force. You know that conversely, this can be stated as force in equilibrium would cause a body to remain in rest or in uniform motion. Okay, converse is also true here. If at all a body is acted upon by multiple force, either it will remain in rest. If it is to move, it will move with a uniform velocity. Okay, in that case, that force is not generating the motion, maybe that body is already in motion and force is doing no change at all. Okay, so that is why that force is creating an situation of equilibrium. Okay, so that is what is equilibrium also. So what it does, it asserts rest or in uniform motion, both are equivalent. Okay, you know very well, if I perceive an object which is at rest with respect to my viewpoint, it may be moving with somebody who is moving on a vehicle with a uniform velocity. It is always a relative term also. So both of them are equivalent terms. Okay, so that we have to understand. As long as it is said to be in rest or in uniform motion, essentially there is no force acting on it. Okay, so this essentially defines how a zero force would look like. This defines what is a zero force. Okay, this is basically the basis of statics. Statics is a branch of mechanics that we are going to study now. So this is the first law which defines statics overall. Okay, so this picture simply shows you have three forces, F1, F2 and F3, which are acted outside, okay, from here, here, and effectively this body is in uniform motion. Again, this motion is a motion which was already there. It is not because of this balanced forces. Okay. So this is what is there, and then comes the second law. Second law is again very, very important. It also defines many other things. Let us see. Okay. A particle of mass m acted upon by an unbalanced force. It has a mass m acted upon by an unbalanced force. That means resultant of force has a magnitude and a direction, will experience an acceleration a that has same direction as that of force or the resultant of unbalanced forces. Okay, and magnitude is directly proportional to the force. That means F creates acceleration, F creates an acceleration which is proportional to F. M is nothing but constant of proportionality. So F is acceleration produced is proportional to F, and it is given by a constant which is mass. Okay, this is derived long back, and it is equal to that constant of proportionality is mass. Okay, alternatively, this second law can also be expressed as the force acting on a body is equal to its rate of change of momentum. Force acting on a body is equal to rate of change of momentum. This not just applies to a body which is in linear motion. You know very well, torque will be equal to rate of change of angular momentum. So it should be I omega. Omega has got its own velocity also, own magnitude also. So yes, in case of angular thing, this also holds true, and it can be given like this. So force here, I would mean force here is a generalized force. It can be force, it can be moment. So explicitly I need not to say force is force only. Force can be a moment, torque also. Okay, so both are implicitly stated in this particular law. Okay, going to next. It captures the essence of first law. How? If dmv by dt is equal to 0, that means rate of change of momentum is equal to 0. So what does it state? That means it has a mass cannot be equal to 0. So that means either v is equal to 0, effectively dmv by dt is equal to 0. So that means if body is at rest, F equivalent is equal to 0. F equivalent is equal to 0. So you can directly get if this is equal to 0, that means force is equal to 0, right? So that again comes back to first law, Newton's first law. Okay. Going to next, this also defines how a force of 1 Newton would look like. How a 1 Newton force would create, if it is a 1 kg body, okay, body of 1 kilogram mass will create 1 meter per second square acceleration, right? So that is how it also explains 1 or minus 1, only direction is changing. Any value in the number line, how will it look like? How will that force would look like? Okay, and in case of a 3D, you have 3 number lines, x, y, and z. Okay, so this is quite trivial again. So how much is g? So this is left to you to decide. How much is g? G is 9.81 whatever. Okay, it is a measurement of force, or v. V is velocity. Effectively, you have to work upon this. Find out what does g gives. It gives a measurement of external force or external velocity. Something force, definitely a force. Basically it is a gravitational force. Okay, so yes, so now coming to the third law, mutual forces of action and reaction between two particles are equal, opposite, and collinear. They always exist in pairs. They always exist in pairs. So force of B on A, force of B on A is equal to force of A on B, and they together is known as action reaction pair. Okay, they both act on different body. They both act on different body. Okay, they both cannot act on same body. So given two bodies A and B, these are the two forces. Over here both are same, yes. So applicable to both statics and dynamics. We can apply this law to any static system or a dynamic system. Okay. So each and every particle, mind it, this is very important thing. This is very important thing to understand. Each and every particle inside a cube, if it is broken down, it is in equilibrium. It is in equilibrium. So mutual forces are also equal. That means each and every particle is applying same amount of force on each other. That is the reason that body as a whole is a body. It is not exploding out, right? Each and every particle inside a block is in equilibrium, either if it is moving in a uniform velocity or if it is in a state of rest. If you break it down, so that is the case. Every internal parts of the block have an interaction force of F. Okay, if you break it down, each and every part, so this one will have, this interface will have a force which is given by F. Okay, from that side also it will be a similar force. First law is applied to each and every piece of this block. Okay, so now let us come to some quantities. There are quantities which are scalars and vectors. So let us now quickly recapitulate those as well. So only magnitude is associated to it. It is scalar. It doesn't have a direction. Time, volume, mass, speed, pressure. Although these last two I have inclined put in italics because it looks like it has direction, but actually it is not. Speed may be very okay with you to understand. Pressure itself is a scalar quantity. It is acted upon. If it is a balloon, it acts on each and every direction with the same magnitude. Is it not? So a magnitude is what which counts here. It has no direction. We'll come to this again, okay, and we'll clarify if you have any doubt. Okay, now coming to vector, it possesses both magnitude and direction. Examples are displacement, velocity, acceleration, forces. Force, because force is a derived unit. F is equal to ma. Mass is a scalar, so a is now you know it is vector. So of course force also will be a vector. Okay, so it is a derived thing. So we'll formally define them all later on once again. Okay, tensor, it is neither a scalar nor a vector. It is a special thing that you will encounter from now on. Stress, strain, moment of inertia. So far maybe you may be thinking it as a scalar quantity. It is not a scalar. It is neither a vector. It is a tensor. Tensor is a special type of thing. We'll discuss then while we start moment of inertia and those things when we'll start dynamics. Okay, moment of inertia will show how it is a tensor, how tensors are defined. Conductivity is also a tensor. Okay, so these are this is a special thing that you might have just seen now. Okay, so now different, yes please, yes, what electric current, yes it is, yes it is. Okay, so let us come to vector. Fixed vector, unique point of application. It has a unique point of application. What does it mean? If you change the point of application of that force, effect will be different. Although the magnitude and direction is same, okay, if you change the location, effect is different. That means it is a type of vector which is falling under the category of fixed vector. As for example, let us say you have a block which is kept on the surface as it is shown in this figure. If it is acted on the top, okay, from at over here, and this has got some friction over here, this tends to topple this block, okay, because this generates a moment. Okay, so that is trending to topple this block, whereas if it is applied somewhere near to the surface, it can only move this block, it cannot topple it. So effects are different. Let us say you have a pillow, okay, it is not a rigid body, so you apply at force with the same magnitude at different point, okay, you will get a different deformation, is it not? So that is the reason a fixed vector, okay, should have a unique point of application. It has a unique point of application, and wherever it is applied, it has to be applied there only. Okay, so mind it, you cannot change the position of a fixed vector. Coming to a free vector, what all vectors that fall under this category? They are movable in space. With the same example, this example only, let us come back once again. If at all you don't have any friction here, okay, and you have gradually applied this force, yes, it will have some moment, toppling moment still, if at all it is a force, but this time, you know what, this should not topple, okay, it will create just a motion which is in this direction, whether it is applied here, whether it is applied here, it has to create a motion something like this. Okay, same, if at all a body is rotating with an angular velocity, each and every particle is rotating with the same angular velocity omega. Same with the couple, rotational motion, so it doesn't have any unique point of application, and it can be shifted one part of the body to another part. Okay, so the way we analyze different forces, maybe I have seen now. Okay, we'll come back to that problem later on once again. We'll see an example when you can move this force from one point to another and create a vector triangle and solve this problem. Okay, we'll see some through numerical. So now once again there is a vector which is called a sliding vector. What is that? It has got a unique line of application, okay. It doesn't have a point of application. Point can be anywhere on this line, okay. You can change along this line, effects will be different, no, effect will be same, because this type of vector is known as a sliding vectors that can slide along this line of action, okay, this line of action, and can principle of translatability applies. That means it can be translated in one of the direction, okay. It doesn't have any change in resultant effect of this force. If this force is applied here, it will create a different torque at this point, okay, is it not? So about this axis it will create different point, but if at all it is moved along same line, effect will be same, okay. So that is what is a sliding vector. Next, these three are broad category, and then these forces can be concurrent vectors. That means lines of action intersect at a point, so it is concurrent vector. Component and projection, both are different. Projection and component, both are different. Can anyone tell me? Yes, components are vector, that is one, and sum of all the component will give back the original vector. Yes, but projection may not give you that. Okay, projection is just a mirror copy of that, and it is a scalar. So you know it very well. Yes. So note, couple, torque, moments are all vectors. Okay. Torque also is a vector. Do you agree with this? The, it is not. If I tell you it is not, then so we'll define it once again. We'll define it once again. So not to confuse you all at this moment. So both of these are different. This is there. This statement is there to analyze once again. Okay. So moment and torque. Is there any difference? So now you go back and analyze difference between torque and moment and come back to me next class and tell me, yes, what is the difference, which one is a scalar, which one is vector. Couple. So what is a couple? So anyway, this is not the point of this today's class. Okay, today we are about to discuss only vectors, scalars, those things. This is just to for you to recapitulate things. Okay, so what is what? Let us not formally define moment, torque, and couple now. Yes, all are different. They are defined differently, and few of them are vector, and others are not. Okay, so for now you just take it. Okay. Yes. Yes, yes. What do you want? This one? Yes. Yes. Yes, see, if at all you have a rotating disk, you have a disk which rotates about this by an angular velocity omega. So, what do you think? With what velocity this point is rotating? This point. R omega is not a omega. Omega only. Omega only. So, each and every point on this plane, yes, each and every point in this plane rotates with the angular velocity omega. There is nothing r omega. R omega will create a velocity. It is not an angular velocity. So it is directed perpendicular to this plane and it can be placed anywhere on this plane. So that is what is omega. Got it now? Very good. So now we have discussed till here. So let us come back to this parallelogram law of force. So what it is? You already know it. So given two vectors A and B, there is some angle between them. So diagonal of this parallelogram represents the resultant of two vector A and B. How you have derived it? If you can remember this, you just created a, you just move this vector to this point as B. There is some angle between them, same angle comes here. Let us say if it is theta, this also will be theta. So bottom one will be B cos theta, is it not? Perpendicular will be B sin theta. Apply parallelogram law of theorem. So this square plus this square should be r square, and you just calculate r is equal to root over a plus b cos theta whole square plus b sin theta whole square, and you can get it. So this is how you have derived it, and quickly r is a vector sum of a and b, and it is given by, magnitude is given by this, theta is the angle between those two. Done. And how much is this angle? Very good. It was this by this plus this. Very good. Tan of this angle should be equal to b sin theta by a plus b cos theta. Done. Very good. So you know the direction already. So this is quite trivial. Parallelogram law of theorem. You also have law of sine A and cosine. Okay. A, B, C small ones are angles. Bold ones are vectors. These are vectors. Okay. So it can be written, if it is just not bold and italic, it is the magnitude. These are magnitude. Okay. Divided by sin A, B by sin B, C by sin C. This particular law is known as law of sin A and cosine. Okay. So what is this? C is given by this. This can be easily derived by parallelogram law of theorem also. The one which is here. Okay. Same goes here also. Okay. Because this time you have a negative value of A if you consider C. Okay. So equivalent representation will make this sign as negative. Done. So this is what is law of sine A and cosine. These laws, because we will be using all these now. You won't be deriving this. We will directly be using in our problems. Okay, so a classwork problem for today is, you just analyze this figure. You just analyze this figure and tell me if you can derive it in next 5 minutes. So I am halting it for now. Just tell me what are the results. Okay, so what you have seen, you have two unknowns. First is FB, next is theta B. So you can form two different equations. One is along vertical direction, one is along horizontal direction. That is the force balance equation. And two equations, two unknowns, just solve them, you will get it. Okay. So nothing very special. Just construct. You can also do in another way. You can construct the force triangle. Force triangle displace these forces FB, FC and FA, create a force triangle, okay, force vector triangle, okay, some way, and you can use sine rule to solve it using the unknown angle. So this is the another approach. So these two are the approaches. First one is breaking down along the components horizontal and vertical. Another one is using sine rule. You can solve it in no time. Okay, so I think that's all for today, and if you have any specific query, you can definitely ask now.